You know, I think most of us have this feeling, somewhere deep down, a quiet hum of unease. We wake up, we go through the motions, the coffee, the commute, the workday, the evening scroll, the tired collapse into bed. And then we do it all over again. We call this life. We check the boxes. But sometimes, in a quiet moment, maybe just before sleep, a question floats to the surface. Is this it? Is this really all there is? The profound teachings of the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung offer a startling answer to that question. He suggested that many of us aren't truly awake. We're sleepwalking with our eyes wide open. We think we're living, but we're really just surviving. This isn't about physical sleep. It's a kind of mental, emotional, and spiritual slumber. We're so tuned into the noise of the outside world, the demands, the expectations, the endless stream of content, that we can't hear the whispers from within. And that's where the real trouble begins. Because when we can't hear our own inner voice, our life stops being our own. It becomes a patchwork of other people's expectations. What our parents wanted for us, what society tells us we should want, the values our culture insists are important. We drift further and further from our true selves, to the point where we might even forget who the true self is. We start wanting things not because we genuinely desire them, but because we've been told we should. Our dreams, our ambitions, even our definitions of success, are they really ours? Or are they hand-me-downs? This life in a dream might seem comfortable. It's familiar. It's the path of least resistance. On the surface, everything might look fine. We have a job, a routine, a family. But inside, there's a silent scream. It's the voice of a soul that feels unseen, unheard, and unexpressed. And to drown out that scream, we do exactly what the world encourages us to do. We create more noise. We work harder, we consume more, we chase bigger thrills, we fill every spare moment with distraction. We think we're chasing happiness, but Jung would say we're really running from an existential void. We're searching for meaning in all the places it can't be found. A person who lives without waking up tends to see the problems they face as bad luck or fate. That's just the way things are, they sigh. But Jung proposes a radical idea. These aren't just random misfortunes. They are, very often, the consequences of our unconscious choices. We are making decisions from a place of sleep, and then we're surprised when the results feel hollow, chaotic, or painful. The key to breaking free, Jung teaches, is to achieve wholeness. And you cannot become whole without facing what he called your shadow. Now, the shadow, that's a concept that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, and for good reason. It's the part of ourselves we don't want to see. It's the collection of everything we've repressed, denied, or hidden away. Our unacceptable emotions, our secret shames, the anger we were told was bad, the impulses that aren't socially acceptable, our broken hopes, the words we never had the courage to say. We stuff all this material into the basement of our psyche, into the unconscious mind, and we try to lock the door. But here's the crucial thing Jung discovered. What you suppress doesn't disappear. It doesn't just vanish. It grows stronger in the darkness it waits. And it finds ways to express itself, whether we like it or not. It leaks out. You see it in the patterns you can't seem to break. The same type of dysfunctional relationship you keep falling into. The unexplained outbursts of anger that seem to come out of nowhere. Those self-sabotaging habits that ruin your success just when you're on the verge of a breakthrough. That lingering feeling of emptiness that a new purchase or a new vacation can't quite fill. These aren't just random glitches in the system. They are messages. They are the silent scream of the unconscious, trying to get your attention. Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Let that sink in. The parts of yourself you refuse to acknowledge are, ironically, the very things running the show. You might think you're in the driver's seat, making conscious choices, but if you've never faced your shadow, you're just a passenger. The unconscious is driving, and you're just along for the ride, blaming the road when you crash. Life, in its own strange and often painful way, is constantly trying to wake us up. It sends us messages. At first, these messages are gentle, subtle whispers. A nagging feeling that something isn't right. A dream that leaves you feeling unsettled in the morning. A sudden intuition to take a different path. A coincidence that feels a little too meaningful to be random. What Jung called synchronicity. But we're so busy, so preoccupied with the surface-level drama of our lives, that we dismiss these whispers. We call them indigestion, or stress, or mere imagination. So life, being a persistent teacher, turns up the volume. The whisper becomes a nudge. Maybe it's a minor crisis at work. A relationship that hits a rough patch. A period of intense boredom or dissatisfaction. If we still don't listen, the nudge becomes a shake. This is where the real pain comes in. It could be a significant loss, a job, a loved one. It could be illness, a burnout, a depression, a full-blown existential crisis. It feels like the world is falling apart. And in a way, it is. But it's the world you've built on a fragile foundation of unconsciousness. The crisis is not a punishment, it's a correction. It's the universe's way of forcing you to look inward, because you refuse to do so voluntarily. This pain, whether emotional or physical, is what Jung saw as the external reflection of an internal imbalance. The pain is a messenger. It's shouting, "Hey, look inside. Something in here needs your attention." We usually perceive this pain as a threat, as something to be avoided at all costs. We numb it. We distract ourselves from it. We blame others for it. But the person who is truly on the path of awakening learns to see pain differently. They learn to ask, what is this trying to show me? What part of myself have I been neglecting that is causing this external suffering? Confronting this pain is the beginning of the most important journey you will ever take, the journey of confronting yourself. This isn't about self-improvement in the typical sense. It's not about adding more skills to your resume or more muscles to your body. This is about spiritual archaeology. It's about digging down into the deepest layers of your being and meeting every aspect of yourself that you've ever ignored, denied, or suppressed. It's a process of spiritual death and rebirth. The first thing you have to do is take off the masks. We all wear them. Jung called them the persona, the face we show the world. The good employee, the perfect parent, the tough guy, the nice girl. These masks are necessary to a degree. They help us function in society. But the problem starts when we confuse the mask with who we really are. We forget we're wearing a costume, and we think the costume is us. The process of awakening begins when those masks start to feel tight. They begin to crack. You have a moment where you ask, who am I really, underneath all of this? When I'm not trying to impress anyone, when no one is watching, who is there? That question can be terrifying, because the answers aren't always pretty. You have to be willing to meet your own darkness, the jealousy, the pettiness, the fear, the need for control, the parts of you that you've been taught are shameful. This is the ultimate confrontation with the shadow. And it's painful. It requires you to let go of cherished illusions about yourself. It demands humility. You have to admit that you're not the perfectly put-together person you pretend to be. But here's the magical secret that Jung uncovered. Within your shadow, along with the darkness, lies your greatest potential. Your suppressed creativity, your untapped strength, your authentic passion. It's all buried in there with the stuff you're afraid of. By facing the darkness, you also reclaim your light. As Jung said, there is no light without shadow, and no psychic wholeness without imperfection. The first steps of true awakening are often small, quiet, and internal. It might be a decision to spend 5 minutes in silence each morning, just listening. It might be the courage to write in a journal and be brutally honest for the first time. It might be the willingness to sit with a difficult emotion instead of immediately reaching for your phone to escape it. It's the commitment to question your automatic reactions. Why did that comment make me so angry? Why do I feel so small around that person? These small acts of awareness are like seeds. They don't look like much, but they contain the blueprint for a whole new life. This journey requires immense courage. The courage to be different. The courage to disappoint others in order to be true to yourself. The courage to feel lost and confused for a while, because the old map you were following is no longer valid. You have to draw a new one from the inside out. This is where you start to cultivate the power of a conscious life. A conscious life isn't a state of perpetual bliss. It's a state of profound awareness. It means living in relationship with your inner world, with the people around you, and with the universe itself, wide awake. It's about making choices from a place of inner knowing, not from a place of fear or obligation. When you begin to live consciously, several things happen. You develop a deep sense of responsibility, not just for your actions, but for your inner state. You realize that by healing yourself, you contribute to healing the world, because a world full of awake individuals is a more compassionate, just and creative world. You find an inner equilibrium. The external world might still be chaotic, but you have a center of gravity within you that cannot be so easily shaken. Life becomes meaningful not because the circumstances are always perfect, but because you are in a constant, living dialogue with it. Every challenge becomes a lesson. Every encounter becomes a potential source of insight. Every moment, even the painful ones, is seen as part of a larger, purposeful journey of soul-making. This is the ultimate gift of waking up. It's the discovery that the silent scream within you wasn't a sign of brokenness, but a call to remember. A call to come home to yourself. And once you answer that call, once you decide to truly wake up, nothing ever looks the same again. The journey is long, and it's not always easy, but it's the only journey that leads to a life that is authentically, unforgettably, and powerfully your own. If this conversation resonated with you, if it sparked something inside, then you're already taking that first step. This is what we explore on this channel, the journey from sleepwalking to waking up. If you want to go deeper, be sure to subscribe. And if you feel called to support our work and help us create more content like this, you can join our community by clicking the join button. Thank you for listening and for having the courage to begin.